So, the framework we're unpacking today comes straight from Dr. Dia Ahmedian. He's a pioneer who bridges creative technology, the sciences of new media arts, and art education. Based at Capital University in Egypt, Dr. Ahmedian is asking a pretty radical question in his recent Vance review. He looks right at the intersection of interactive new media arts and knowledge management in the public domain and basically asks, what if we've been looking at data management all wrong? What if the absolute best way to capture human understanding isn't through spreadsheets, but through art? To really grasp why this is so groundbreaking, just think about traditional knowledge management for a second. For decades, organizations have spent literally billions trying to figure out how to capture what their employees and communities know. Usually, this takes the form of endless corporate wikis, giant filing cabinets, dry SharePoint sites, or sterile boardrooms. It's structured, it's rigid, and honestly, it can be pretty boring. But Dr. Ahmedine argues that some of the richest, most dynamic knowledge exchange happening in the world today isn't happening in a boardroom at all. It's happening right out in the open, inside interactive art. Let's paint a picture of what we actually mean by interactive new media arts, or INMA for short. We aren't just talking about a static painting hanging quietly on a museum wall. We're talking about sensor-laden rooms that react to your movement, sprawling virtual reality ecosystems, and massive participatory digital games. These systems routinely capture, process, and exchange massive amounts of data, information, and knowledge with the general public. And yet, the traditional field of knowledge management has almost entirely ignored this. So, the central question of this review is exactly this. What would it take to recognize these interactive arts as a genuine, even if highly unconventional, form of knowledge management? To figure that out, Dr. Ahmedine builds a framework around three distinct contexts, drawing on some pretty heavy-hitting theories. First up is the generative context, inspired by organizational theorist Ikojiro Nonaka. Nonaka distinguished between explicit knowledge, like a written recipe, and tacit knowledge. Actually, think of tacit knowledge more like a master chef's intuition that you can't just write down on a piece of paper. Interactive art generates a unique dialogue between these two, capturing that unspoken intuition through how we physically interact with the system. Second is the participatory context, drawing on Pierre Lévy's concept of collective intelligence. The idea here is simple. We are way smarter together. The art amplifies that initial dialogue across a whole network of interacting people. Finally, we have the integrative context. This expands everything into a full public environment, drawing on philosopher Jürgen Habermas and Luciano Floridi's concept of the infosphere. An infosphere is basically a blended digital and physical ecosystem of information. Now, a really crucial point here. This is a functional claim. He's not saying that an art exhibit literally is a database. He's saying that it functions like one, performing analogous operations but in a public, voluntary, and highly artistic setting. Now, to prove this isn't just some wild theoretical guess, the review employed a PRISMA-guided methodology. For those unfamiliar, PRISMA is basically the gold standard for systematically weeding through thousands of scientific studies to find the most rigorous, relevant data. It's like a highly structured detective story. The researchers sifted through decades of literature from the year 2000 all the way to 2024, analyzing exactly how interactive art practically manages data, information, and knowledge. They ultimately narrowed that mountain of data down to 239 highly relevant studies that map this phenomenon in action. From this massive review, a fascinating ladder of interaction emerged with three really consistent patterns. Think of it like this. Level 1 is passive to receptive. This is like watching a movie. You're simply receiving knowledge from the system. Level 2 is retroactive to dialogic. This is more like a choose-your-own-adventure book. You make a choice, the system reacts, and there's a basic dialogue. But Level 3 is where the magic really happens. Active to co-constitutive. This is like building a world together in Minecraft from scratch. Participants aren't just reacting, they're actively co-creating and co-constituting the knowledge alongside the system and each other. The review found that this most active, unified configuration is actually the rarest in the academic literature, which tells us this is exactly where the greatest untapped opportunity lies for future innovation. The review highlights three projects showing production, presentation, and education as different themes of this same paradigm. First up, Biofilm.net's Umbrella Project. Just imagine a public protest where traditional communication networks are completely shut down. This project turned physical protest umbrellas, equipped with many antennas, into a decentralized mesh Wi-Fi network. The participants, holding these umbrellas, didn't just passively receive a signal. By literally standing together and moving through the city, they co-constituted a self-governing, community-owned communication network. The art project literally became the infrastructure for managing public knowledge. Or, consider a totally different environment, the Jazz Luminaries Project. Picture yourself stepping inside a massive, immersive, full-dome visualization. All around you are these glowing nodes representing 5,000 distinct jazz musicians and their historical collaborations. Instead of just reading a textbook about the history of jazz, you physically navigate the space, zooming in on different artists and seeing exactly how they connect. You are inside the database. By exploring this participatory context, visitors are actively building their own mental maps and personal understandings of a massive social network, effectively managing historical knowledge through a sensory experience. And hey, it doesn't stop at history and communication. It extends right into hard science. Take the BioBlocks project. In biology, protein docking is a highly complex computational task. It's essentially trying to figure out how microscopic 3D puzzle pieces fit perfectly into a specific lock. Computers actually struggle with this, but human brains are surprisingly good at spatial reasoning. BioBlocks gamifies this protein docking process. By turning a serious, heavy scientific task into a vibrant, interactive learning loop, average citizens playing a game suddenly become data processors. They're helping solve real scientific puzzles, generating new explicit knowledge through interactive play. So, what does this all mean for us? We've journeyed from boring corporate wikis all the way to Wi-Fi-enabled umbrellas, immersive jazz domes, and biological puzzle games. This framework represents a major paradigm shift. It gives the traditional field of knowledge management a totally fresh vocabulary for a dynamic landscape it has, frankly, always managed without naming. At the same time, it gives interactive art practitioners a concrete way to validate and show exactly what their work contributes to society. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that interactive art can reach audiences, capture tacit knowledge, and achieve outcomes that institutional boardroom knowledge management could literally never dream of reaching alone. The implications here are huge for both artists and scientists alike. To dive deeper into the methodology and really explore these concepts further, I highly encourage you to read Dr. Ahmadine's full framework in Wire's Data Mining and Knowledge Discovery.